Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the session on preparing Gen Z learners for success. I know that I met most of you yesterday at the networking event, so I'm so happy that I see your faces today. I'm really excited about talking specifically on this topic because in the workplace today, there is a disconnect between employers and Gen Z. Hiring managers do not want to hire us, and I say us because I am a Gen Zer myself. And the numbers on this slide exemplify what I'm showing. 74% of managers have said that Gen Z is the most challenging generation to work with. 6 in 10 companies have fired a recent college graduate they hired this year, which was in 2024, just 2 years ago. And 9 in 10 hiring managers say that recent college graduates should undergo etiquette training. This is where I come in because this is where my passion is. I'm an early career workplace trainer and instructional designer, and I focus on providing and developing talent through professionalism, communication, and emotional intelligence. I will be sharing more about my services as we continue on, but I just wanted you to see that there is an issue. Go ahead, sir.
Before I forget this, I have to address the third bullet.
Yes.
I was on a search committee for a future employer at my school.
Yes.
During the interview process, we asked the standard 9 questions.
Yes.
This person was a Gen Z. 2 of the questions, this person said they were unfair questions in the interview. Unfair questions. And this person only answered 1 of the 2.
Wow.
Gen Z time.
Now, I want to dive right into the content, and I want to start the session off with a story. I believe stories help paint a picture and can provide a better context so you understand exactly what's happening. The woman that you see on the screen, her name is Angela. Angela is a healthcare director at an organization in the state of Mississippi. Like many leaders, Angela does not expect perfection from her young professionals. She knows that they're still getting their foot in the door, they're learning, so what she does expect are questions, she expects coaching, and she also expects development. But recently, Angela has been noticing a pattern. A young professional will enter her organization. They will have come with the necessary program requirements, certifications, degree. They will have the technical skills needed to do the job. Also, they will have interviewed really well. But something is missing, and she notices that after a few months, there's a problem. What do you think that problem is?
Attitude.
Attitude? Attitude? Anyone else want to shout something out?
Self-motivation.
Self-motivation? No? That's okay. It's okay. I said there's something that she's noticing after a few months with her young professionals that aren't up to par. What do you think that issue might be?
Communication.
Communication. And you're all right. It's interpersonal skills. Angela has noticed that when a Gen Zer will enter her organization, they do not always ask for clarity when they're confused. They tend to wait until a small issue becomes a bigger problem. She says they shut down when they receive feedback, and they also take correction very personally. And they also have difficulty managing frustration, following through consistently, or understanding how their tone, body language, or attitude, like you said, impacts the team. So soon enough, Angela is not thinking this employee needs more training. What she's thinking is this employee is simply not ready. And that is the workforce gap that we're here to address today, because across the state of Mississippi, employers are saying something very important. Job skills are important, but technical training alone is not enough. Soft skills is their greatest need, even more than the hard skills. So why does this matter to you? Well, you all are the ones in this room who are setting the foundation for workforce success across Mississippi, but also across the nation, depending on where your students go. This includes HVAC, manufacturing, welding, plumbing, education, public service, business, among many other high-demand industries. So we need to get to a point where we're not only talking and asking ourselves, well, can we get students in the door? We need to be asking, well, what are we teaching before placement? What are we reinforcing during placement? And what are we measuring after placement? Because like I mentioned, students are getting in the door, but are they actually able to perform once they arrive? That's the question. And that's why we're talking about going from placement to performance, which is why I titled that as my session. In our time together, here are the objectives. We're gonna examine 3 workplace readiness gaps that cause these challenges at work. We're also gonna be talking about the 3 workplace readiness shifts that we need to be prepared to teach them. And we also are gonna understand how colleges and institutions can better prepare their students before, during, and after placement. Now, I've designed this workshop to be interactive. I want there to be dialogue. I know you guys have been sitting all day and absorbing information. While I'm up here sharing, I'm also learning. So if I ask a question, I encourage you to, just let me know what your experience has shown you as well, because I'm absorbing too. And also towards the end, I'll share more about the work that I do and how you can connect with me. Does that sound good? Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me start with you all. What is one readiness gap you hear employers mention most often in your experience? Or something that you see, like a gap?
I think communication is one of the issues.
Okay, and we're gonna talk about that, but communication's big.
I'm in funeral business.
Okay.
I've had managers or owners tell me there's, again, the people that they're hiring, or we have a preceptorship situation. Again, they have to be told what to do. Otherwise, they're going to sit in the corner and just sit there. And it goes back, I can't think to motivation. You're there to help the employer, the employer's not there to help you.
Yeah, I think the initiative, right?
Take the initiative, exactly.
So lack of initiative, communication, motivation. Anyone else want to mention anything?
The inability to take critical feedback.
Yep, that's a big one. I have stories about that one.
Analytical thinking is the most difficult thing to do, I think.
Yep, analytical thinking, right, because everything is like on the phone, so if I have a question, they can't process, absolutely. The reason why I'm asking this specific question is because I was curious. There are so many statistics on the problems that Gen Z has in the workplace, but I wanted to narrow in and understand, well, what exactly is happening? Because I was hearing lack of initiative, motivation, communication, but in my mind, what does that mean? So over the past few months, I've reached out to hundreds of HR directors, training managers, and leaders who are working closely with these young professionals because I wanted to understand, well, what exactly are you guys experiencing? And just about a week or 2 ago, I took all of these notes and I wanted to see if I could find specific themes. And this is actually what's driven my training, and I mentioned it to you in the beginning, but the 3 gaps that I found: 1, communication, so you were absolutely spot on. The second is professionalism, and the third is emotional intelligence. And we're gonna talk about what each of these means, but once again, I wanna turn the tables back over to you. When it comes to communication, what are we assuming that students already know before they enter the workplace?
How to communicate with each other and how to communicate with upper and lower level.
Yep, so upper management, lower management, distinguishing exactly who they're talking to, okay?
You can do that. I think the communication skills are different from older adults. They didn't go outside and play.
Right. For lack of better words.
They
Right.
on the phone, so they have a disconnect personally from other people more so than older groups.
Right, exactly. And older, I call older employees seasoned employees. I just feel like it just sounds better. So seasoned employees, they have a different expectation with communication, right? Something that I've learned in these conversations that I was having with these leaders is that students are having a difficult time differentiating between academic communication and workplace communication, but also like communication on social media. Because they're very vocal on a keyboard. They can talk, they can type, they know what they're saying. But when they're communicating face to face, it's not there. Even though a student may know how to write an essay, even though they may know how to post online or talk casually to other people, that does not mean they know how to talk to their managers. It doesn't mean they know how to talk to someone who is 20 or 30 years older than them. It doesn't mean they know how to talk to the customer or the employer vendor. Managers have shared with me that their Gen Zers do not know how to write and send an effective update. They don't know how to ask questions without being professional. And they also are struggling with proactive communication. So when it comes to communication, Gen Z is thinking, I will ask if I really need help, but that reads as disengagement or lack of motivation, right? Because the manager is thinking, well, there's so much to do. Why aren't you thinking about what you can do, right? You're just sitting here. They're thinking, I don't want to bother anyone, can look like poor follow through. Their manager is thinking, well, I expected an update last Tuesday, but it's now like Wednesday of this week. I'm still waiting. And I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt to see if they're actually going to come to me. So there is this mismatch because managers, especially if you all are leaders in the room today, effort is not the only thing that you're looking for. You're looking for clarity. You're looking for context. You're looking for next steps. You want an employee who is high value, and they're not coming in like that.
Are we hitting with I've heard the defense from a generation between my generation and Gen Z saying, when we look at these Gen Zs, are we doing too much of a broad stroke overall for them? I think we're not. I don't. I really don't.
Right.
But I'm sorry, I don't know the generations, but
That's okay.
I'm 1960, my coworker's in the 30s, 32.
Okay.
She was defending Gen Z.
She's millennial and you're Gen
Right,
X.
millennial defending the Gen Z. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm just sitting there, I'm not sure if I see it that clear, because I'm 65.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, I know why I was raised, my work ethic, all that stuff.
Right.
And I don't see it.
Right. I was speaking to a woman in the hallway about that, right? The way that Gen Z and even some millennials, most millennials were raised, they were raised with that phone. They were raised watching YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and being on social media. So they're seeing teenagers and 20-year-olds quitting their jobs, living their best life, right? They have millions of dollars, they're having Lamborghinis, they have all this money. So their view of success has changed because of what they keep seeing every day on that phone. And it's this comparison that's affected how they view workplace success. That's why, and I'll admit this, when I first started the professional world, because I used to be a server, but when I graduated from college, I thought, okay, I'm amazing here, 6 months, okay, I need like at least $80,000, $90,000. Like where's that? And I thought that. And then reality hit me now that I've been in the workplace for a while longer to just learn that that's just not how it is. That's just not the case. But social media set me up to think that. Delusion, exactly. So I agree with you.
And in our profession, there's a hierarchy of experience that
Right.
at this level, you're not considered a full field director.
Exactly.
You've been there for 20 years. And then you've got newcomers coming into the profession with the attitude, I'm not going to clean baseboards, I'm not going to dust, I'm not going to wash vehicles. That's it. I'm not even going to make removals at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there going,
That's where you start.
yeah, that's where you start. You know?
But that was me. I was 22 applying to be a director. Like what? Like what did I know? So that was me, and I'll admit that. Go ahead, ma'am.
Well, I'm a baby boomer, and I just don't understand any better. I just don't understand some of these generations.
Right.
Because we were like taught to work hard,
Right.
come to work, be respectful,
Right.
Clean the bathrooms,
Right.
work the way up, and now you run across these young people and they just are like, I'm not doing that.
Right. Right.
Who does that?
The audacity to be like, no.
So that's why I'm asking about the question, because some of them I just don't understand it.
Right. And that, what you're all saying right now, it really ties into professionalism because they're entering with this attitude like I'm here, I know what I want, I know what I'm worth, and I'm not doing that. But when it comes to professionalism, and this is something that I talk to them a lot about, Their managers look for certain things when they're entering an organization. This includes how they enter a room, whether they take notes, do they follow up, how they respond when corrected. So to your point, this is so big. Do they put their phone away? I see this all the time. Do they communicate before a deadline is missed, and whether they take ownership when something goes wrong? So when it comes to professionalism, this is what managers are saying. I can't tell you how many have shared with me that they'll have a team division meeting, maybe about once a month. So in this, let's just say it's the size of this room and there'll be many people in here. And about the first 10 minutes, their Gen Zero will seem like they're engaged, they're listening attentively. But at that 15-minute mark, they take out their phone and they're like tapping to see if they have a notification. It's like their inability to sit still without the phone. And what's even more frustrating for them is that after that meeting has ended, that's when people build that team building, that morale. They talk to each other, they network, they get to know their colleagues. But they're just sitting there scrolling on TikTok, texting their friend, like not understanding that their behavior makes them look so disengaged and like they're just not here. And they say, do I have to handhold them and tell them this? Because I'm not doing it. Managers have shared that with me.
You just said they don't have a concept of teamwork.
Exactly.
Once you get the job, you become part of the team. And by them coming up, not being sociable, being outside, being with other people, what they do is isolate themselves. Like you say, you're on the phone, seeing what you want to see, and reinforce everything you think you're supposed to be or who you think you're going to be.
Right.
And it's not reality.
I had a credit union hire me to train her Gen Z on how to have water cooler talk. That is how bad it is. Literally, I'm not joking. I did this training in May. How to have a conversation, what questions they should ask, how to seem engaged. And at first I thought it was a joke, but no, that was the training.
Mm-hmm.
That was the training.
I think there's a disconnection between, again, in my profession, when you're hired as an employee, especially the Gen Z, they don't understand their activity is to help make the business profitable.
Right.
They never connect
No.
that if I'm a good worker, then I have more security in my job, all these other things. And
They don't
it's
think
just-
like that.
It's oblivious.
Yeah.
It's oblivious. Their attitude is, the employer paying me, they're just like paying me
Yeah.
to be here or whatever.
Right.
But again, now they're expanding beyond those basic boundaries of what is expected.
Absolutely.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
All right, we're on something.
Okay, let's talk about emotional intelligence. This one's big. What are we assuming that students already know before they enter the workplace about emotional intelligence? This is I would say, a Pinterest word. Go ahead.
We assume that it's developed. And
Yep.
when they come in, we because that's who we are, we expect that from other people. And then when they get there, you realize that they don't. And I don't want to say home training because you're talking about adults, but most of them don't. Respect is not mutual.
It's not there.
It's like, if it ain't about me, I really don't care what is it.
Right. Right.
I had to tell me flat out, their philosophy is, I owe respect to no one. They have to earn it for me to respect them. And I'm sitting there, that's absurd.
Yeah.
You respect your elders,
Absolutely.
you respect your employer, and I'm just saying, you're going through life like that.
Yeah.
I'm just, all right, I'm done grinding, but I'm just saying,
No,
that blew me away.
I'm absorbing. I'm learning. Yeah.
You're 100% right.
Do what?
You're 100% right. They come into the workplace with an entitlement that is unearned.
Yeah.
And they, as soon as they come in, they think they get the benefits that everyone else gets, no matter how experienced they are.
Right.
And it doesn't work like that. Exactly.
Nope. Spot on. When it comes to emotional intelligence, I will say that many young professionals, they have not had enough practice receiving feedback. And I know you're thinking, well, where would they have this practice from? But because they don't have it coming in, and because it's affecting how people are working with them, it's a core skill and it's a core need. I've had leaders share with me that they'll say, hey, they'll pull their Gen Zer into the office and say, hey, I wanted to tell you, can you communicate with me sooner on this next time? And instead of them saying, yes, like, you know, I made a mistake, I understand, next time I'll do better, what they'll do is over apologize, like, oh my God, I'm sorry, nobody told me this, right? Or they'll become very defensive, they'll over explain, they'll be like, oh, well, that's not my fault, like, and they'll just have this attitude, going back to your word, of just like whatever, this nonchalantness. And the reason why we're specifically talking about communication, professionalism, and emotional intelligence is because these are core workforce readiness skills, not optional extras. Mississippi Today, that statistic that I showed in the beginning, where they were saying that soft skills are more important than technical skills, I got that from a Mississippi Today article. We need to teach them this before they enter, because if we don't teach them this now, where are they going to be in 30 years from now? Because we're not going anywhere. I'll tell you that much. By 2030, we're expected to encompass 74% of the United States workforce.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
My son is at Mississippi State.
Yes.
He was doing interviews for internships.
Yes.
Now, he was doing mechanical engineering. He said, Dad, I've got these engineer classmates over here. They make straight A's. They're nerds. No other word to describe it. He said, I got the positions that I've got, 2 of them, because I have those soft skills.
Yes.
And he was told that up front.
Yes.
Saying, yeah, you made it. And he's my son's a great student. He wasn't perfect 4.0.
Right.
But there's a difference in the employer looking at someone that can communicate exactly what we're getting ready to solve the answers.
That's how I got my first job out of college. My employer, my boss, who's the executive director of a nonprofit, he said, just so you know, I didn't hire you because of your resume, what you have on there. I hired you because I saw that you could communicate and talk. And that's why.
And he must have learned that by being a waiter.
Right.
Serious.
Exactly. It starts.
And he made good wages because he knew how to. He would say, I knew how to work my customers.
Work the room. Yeah, that's it. That's how you do it. And you have to show. You can't just fake it. You actually have to show that you care. You actually have to be in it, because people can spot that. I'll tell you. All right. So this is now we're going to dive into the 3 workforce readiness shifts, because now that we know the gaps, it's time to talk about, well, how do we get them to shift? It's about a mindset shift. We need to go from tell me what to do to help me understand expectations, because right now they're operating here. So this is a communication shift. I know that young professionals are struggling with communication, not because of what I'm reading or because of what you're telling me, but because that was me just a few years ago. I graduated from college in December of 2021. I did an internship, and then I started my first professional job in August of 2022. Before that, I mentioned I was a server. So about a week of me being at the job, the executive director, who was my boss, he comes into my office and he goes, hey Hannah, how are you? How are you acclimating to things? And I'm like, I'm great. Like, I'm ready. Like, I'm good. And he goes, there's an opportunity for you to present in front of a public transportation organization. So he goes, you need to do a services presentation. Do you feel comfortable giving it? If not, it's okay. You've only been here for a week. I can give it to one of our advocates. And I was like, no, like, I got this. Like, I can do it. Like, I want to start working. Like, I got this. And he was like, okay, great. He goes, here's the time. Here's the location. Do you need anything from me? I said, nope, I'm good. I'm great. So I leave that day feeling so excited. The next day comes, and I'm working on this presentation, and I think, oh, did he tell me how many people are going to be at the training? Because I don't know. So I'm like, okay, let me go to his office and ask him. So I walk over, and I see his door shut, and it says busy. And there was another girl who was also walking in the hallway, and I asked her, I'm like, hey, Kaylin, like, is Tommy, like, is he ready? Like, can I talk to him? And she goes, girl, he's preparing for a board meeting. Like, you're not going to be able to talk to him probably until, like, next week. And I was like, I can't wait that long. My presentation was next week. So what did I do? I went back to my office, and I just made up my own assumptions. I set my own expectations. It's like, okay, public transit organization, let me prepare for at least 50 people. Okay, so that's what I did. The next day comes. Okay, is it supposed to be interactive? Like, I don't know. He told me the time. How long is the presentation gonna be? So I'm over here making up things as I go. So I prepared for 50 people, 60 minutes, interactivity, and I was like on a roll. I get there the next week. I walk into the room, kid you not, there's 8 people there. very bored looking. They already know about our organization. They already know about our services. They don't want to talk to me. They know everything. I didn't have 60 minutes, I had 15 minutes.
Yeah.
They expected collateral for me to have like cards of our services so they could hand out. I didn't bring that. So I was very disappointed and stressed out because I didn't know how I was going to relay this information to my boss after his board meeting. So the reason why I share this story is because I didn't know what questions I needed to ask when he asked me if I needed help. And then when he wasn't available, I assumed he was executive director. He's not gonna have the time to talk to me like on a random Tuesday at 9 a.m. when he has a board meeting prepared for, but I didn't understand that. So when I talk to students now, I tell them, these are the 6 questions you need to know. I call these the who, what, where, when, why, how. Who is the point of contact if I get stuck? Because I might need help. What does success look like? Where should the work be completed or submitted? When is the deadline? Why does this task matter? Because for Gen Z, they need to understand why they're doing what they're doing. That's how they connect purpose. And how often should I check in? Why is this important? I'll show you in a minute. But the next question I always get is, oh my gosh, Hannah, these are questions. I can't just sit there and go back and forth. Like, how do I ask my boss all these questions at once? This is where the CC and 1A formula come in. This is actually something that I taught myself, that I've used, and it's helped me, and it's helped a lot of other young professionals. These are the 4 words you need to memorize, I tell them, whenever you ask the question. If you use any of these 4 words in any question, it will automatically elevate your communication. So what does this look like in practice? May I ask what your name is?
Yeah, it's Kelly.
Kelly. Kelly. So I know that I'm in charge of preparing the team agenda for Friday. Just so I'm clear, is there a specific format that I should follow?
No.
What might you say?
No.
No? Okay, great. So now I know. Or Kelly might say, Hannah, in our division folder, we actually have 3 templates that you can use from. I completely forgot about that. You can go look at that and use it so you don't have to recreate the wheel. Kelly might be a manager, and she's not going to remember everything at the moment, right? Let's look at something else. You told me your name yesterday, but I forgot. What's your name to say? Yeah. Daryl? Okay, Daryl. Right now, I am in phase 2 of creating the storyboards for the training on Copilot. We're not expected to be complete until about October, but just so I'm aligned with your expectations, how often would you like me to check in with you?
That's 1 to 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. Great. Daryl might say 2 weeks. Kelly might say every month because she has a busy schedule. What's your name?
Sierra.
Sierra might say, listen, I need to know what you're doing. You come to me every Friday. Right? Depends on leadership management style. Very similar with Clarify. Just to clarify, this is due on Friday at 5 p.m., correct? And if I have any questions, I should get them to you by Wednesday. That's how simple it is. When you give Gen Z a framework, when you give them guidance, language, the more confident they're going to be to ask these questions. And one, as a manager, aren't you kind of impressed? Just a little bit. So if one of your employees came to you and asked that, wouldn't you be like, oh, who taught them how to ask this question?
Because
Right.
first month is initiative, they took initiative to make sure that
Exactly.
they get well.
Exactly. And now they're not thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want my boss to think I'm not smart or I'm not competent or I don't know what I'm doing, because that's what they're thinking. But now you're thinking, oh, they asked this question very professionally. So just by having that language, they've elevated themselves in your eyes. I always say that communication is not just about knowing how to speak and express yourself. It's about knowing how to ask, clarify, confirm, and align in a way that builds that trust. And as we know, when you have trust in a team, everything just goes so much more smoothly. Let's go to shift 2 now. We talked about the communication shift. This is from I got the opportunity to I know how to show up. So this is from them being inside of your program. So like I'm here, but teaching them I know how to show up. This is a professionalism shift. And like I said, young professionals need to know how to develop what I like to call their professional presence. Your professional presence is your ability to enter a room and understand, for lack of better words, what vibe is it? Is this formal? Is this casual? Where am I? They need to know how to dress This is big. Because there are so many young professionals, county government, who will come in with wrinkled jeans, just wrinkled shirt, looking disheveled, 10 a.m., their shift was at 8 a.m. with Starbucks in their hand. No, that's not how we dress.
Well, how's the way?
Go ahead.
Imagine the Sabbath, and young lady came in her pajamas, her hair bonnet, and her slippers, and asked me, was I her? And actually, I needed a person, but when she asked me, are you hiring? Honestly, I just gave you a few seconds to realize what she was doing. When she was asking me how she was prepared, and I told her, no,
No, we're not. We're good.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. That was so unprofessional.
Right.
Could have been the nicest person. She seemed to be a nice person. But a nice personality, but it was not professional.
No.
We work that in our program.
Yeah.
Again, with female bitches. Every Monday's dress up day. I give Kendra some credit for that. We do it for two reasons. One is, again, we want to deacclimate to the having to wear a suit or whatever. Second thing is, we're trying to build up a wardrobe for when they graduate. And myself and co-worker with thrifters. So we said, you can do this very affordable.
Right.
And so again, that's the mindset. Now we give them a break in term, they dress in scrubs.
Right.
Just because they, they're modeling. That I think that's a positive to say. It's a mindset that we're in a professional business, very conservative business.
Right.
And you're going to have to dress conservative when you do that.
Yeah.
And we got the same issue dealing with tattoos, hair color, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we hit it right off the bat. And say, sorry, this is just our environment. Now, you can be on the Gulf Coast and go to California and be totally different. But in Mississippi, in Scuba, Mississippi, Meridian, Starkville, Columbus.
There's a culture that needs to be
Very
maintained.
conservative.
Right, which makes sense, absolutely. And this is why when I talk to them, I teach the room method, because in the workplace, perception tends to be reality. You saw that in her room.
Yeah, okay.
You perceived what she may have been like, especially based off of how she looked. Some people say, there's bias there, we shouldn't do that, but that's how we're wired in a way. If I'm looking at you and you just come in disheveled looking.
I heard a quote the other day, it stuck with me.
Yeah.
People hear what they see, not what they hear.
Right.
So.
They look at you and they say, ooh, I'm not hiring you, right? Which makes sense.
Now, if that same young lady had went home,
Right.
came back with a more professional manner, looking the part.
Presentable. Right. Looking.
Because you come into, you can work in the beauty business. You need to look the part.
Right.
I would get.
Right.
So, she would have hired because her personality out there in those few words I had with her, she would have been a good fit. But I just couldn't do it.
Right.
She would.
Because of how she came. Perception tends to be reality, in the workplace especially. So that's spot on. So when I say to read the room, the biggest thing that I want to hone in on here is what impression will my choice create right now? If everyone in the meeting has their camera on, but I have mine off, what impression am I creating? If I'm coming into the office and everyone is dressed very formally on a Monday, but I come in, not looking prepared, what message am I sending? Because in a way, it also affects opportunities. If that young lady may come in looking, prepared and ready, and especially the makeup, you said Sally's?
Yes,
If she was there maybe for a few months and her game was on, she could have been, I don't know, team lead, right? That's how opportunities come, based off of how you carry yourself. The next is observe the norms. I think you all are going to relate to this one. In the workplace, not every expectation is explicit. You all aren't going to sit there when they're hired or they're onboarded and be like, okay, here's what you do and here's what you don't do. Not everything is going to be in the employee handbook. That's just not the reality of how things are. Most norms are going to be observed by observing how people operate. So how do people communicate? This is something that I have to learn, because as a Gen Zer, I'm on my phone all the time. So I had to get myself out of my comfort zone because when I'm working with seasoned employees, they like to talk face to face. So I had to learn how to talk face to face. I had to, do it myself. It wasn't like, oh, they need to come to me. No, I had to meet you where you're at. So that's something. The next is owning your role. This is big. The way they're going to show up at an apprenticeship or internship or a job site, even if they're job shadowing, like they tend to think, well, I'm just an intern. I'm just at an apprenticeship. No, you're in the environment. So you need to act like that's what you do, and you need to act like you're owning that role. Gen Z will come to me and be like, Hannah, they're not taking me seriously. They don't care. It's like they're just stuck in their old ways. And they'll paint you all to be like these people who just want things done like this. And they're like, well, the world is changing. I'm like, okay, but can I ask you a question? What have you been showing them? Have you been coming to work on time? In a meeting, do you have a pencil and a paper showing that you're engaged? Not saying you have to do it, but perception tends to be reality. Are you asking questions, right? What are you showing your manager and your boss for them to not want to listen to you? Because there's always two sides to every story. Finally, matching the moment. This is big because I was talking to a supervisor a few months ago, and she shared with me that she gave her Gen Zer her work cell phone number just in case he had to call out or just in case something came up and he just needed to get to her. So she goes, okay, give him the number. About 2 months later, he just starts texting me every time he's confused on something. He'll be like, hey, I know I'm assigned to do this, but I need guidance. I'm working on this project. I don't know where to start. Hannah, I'm managing 30 people. What project? What do you mean you don't know where to start? What's happening? And she goes, I had to sit in my office and do like a woosah moment. I would have just spazzed out. She said that. And she goes, am I supposed to hand hold him? Like what expectation do I have now? Because leadership, it seems to be changing. It seems to be very different than what it was like even 5-10 years ago. Because it's like I have to tell these Gen Zers how to do every little thing. Why is he texting me about this? Why isn't he emailing me? Like, where's the logic? And she's telling me this, and I'm taking notes. And that's why I'm sharing it with you all here today. So this is professionalism. And the last shift that we're talking about is going from feedback feels personal to feedback helps me grow. This is an emotional intelligence shift. Just because it's the last one does not mean that it's the least important. I would argue that it's probably the most important. I don't think it's a shock when I say that Gen Z struggles when it comes to communicating in conflict, in pressure, and especially in uncomfortable situations. And I'll share another story. So about 1.5 years ago, I was working at this organization where I was a trainer. And the colleague that I worked with, he was 30 years older than I was. So he was very structured and he liked things done very particularly, but he also liked having these weekly meetings with me so that we were on the same page for the next presentation. So every week he would ask me the same question, and it was just so annoying to me, but I never said anything. But he'd be like, okay, Hannah, do you want to meet Monday or Tuesday, 8 a.m. or 2 p.m.? The next week, do you want to meet Wednesday or Thursday, 4 p.m. or 10 a.m.? Every week he'd ask me the same question, and every week I'd give him the same response. Hey Jared, whatever works for you. Whatever works for you. Whatever works for you. Not knowing to him, that seemed like I just didn't care. So one day, I think he had enough of me. So I said, whatever works for you, when he asked me the question, and he goes, are you saying whatever works for me because you just genuinely don't care about these meetings? Or is it because you have decision paralysis and can't make up your mind? So I was like, oh, okay. So I just stood there so taken aback. I didn't know what to say or do. But I was like, I'm not gonna let him talk to me like that. So I was like, obviously it's because I wanna work with you. And then I gave him an attitude. I got up, I pushed my chair and I left. And then we acted like it didn't happen, but that happened. And was it the worst response? No, but was it the best response? Absolutely not. The reason why I reacted like that was because I lacked emotional intelligence. I didn't know how to respond in that situation because nobody teaches you when you're in college or when you're younger that sometimes the biggest conflict that you might have will be with someone who's 20 or 30 years older than you. So how do you navigate that? So, same situation happened again with Jared and I, 6 months later, but But this time, I handled it differently. And this is what I used. I started with the base foundation. This is what has helped me, and it has helped me ever since, and this is what I use. The first is to take a breath. I want to distinguish between a breath and a pause. The first time he told me what he told me, and I was taken aback, I paused. But when I paused, my chest got tight and my throat tightened, and I didn't know how to respond. So it wasn't an effective pause. I was just pausing for the sake of not knowing what to say. When you breathe, what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to regulate your nervous system. And something they need to know is that it's okay if it's awkward. Because I stood there the next time 6 months later, and I was like, and it's not like a weird breath where you're like you're not doing that. You're just calming yourself down. And it's gonna be awkward because he was like, is this girl okay? Like, why is she not saying anything? But I let myself have my moment to regulate. And then the next thing I did was I acknowledged the feedback and I stated my intent. I said, Jared, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I didn't realize that when I said that, it came across as me not caring or me not wanting, to make a decision. That's not the case at all. I stated my intent. The reason why I say this is because there are no conflicts in my schedule. I'm open. Whenever you want to meet with me, I'm here. So that's why I say that, because I want you to know that I respect your time, which was really why I said that. Then I paused, and he responded, and his features softened, and he said, okay, I didn't know that. Thanks for letting me know. This is the most powerful one, because you can probably use this too. He had an issue with what I was saying, so I let him solve his own problem with me. I'm not gonna offer solutions. So what you do when you seek understanding is you ask a question with how or what. So I asked him, I was like, what would you recommend we do moving forward? How would you advise, based off of your experience, of course, that we navigate this? Because it seems to be an issue, and I don't want it to be an issue anymore. You're not being sarcastic with it or facetious with it. This is a genuine wanting to solve the issue because you don't want it to happen again. When you ask a question like this, what it does is it makes them pause and think, because now they're solving the answer to their own problem. You're not having to do it. So he thought about it for a minute, and he said, what would you be okay sharing your calendar with me? This way I can see what blocks you have free, and then I can just send you an invite. I thought about it, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want him to look at all that. So then I was like, it's a great idea. But then I said, how do you feel about if every Friday at 2 p.m. we have our meeting? This way we're on board and we're in sync with what we're doing. He's like, you know what? I actually really like that. I said, great. Then I executed. I said, okay, I'm gonna go to the computer right now and I'm gonna send you a series invite. So in your Outlook calendar, every Friday you're gonna see the standard 2 p.m. meeting with me. I was like, does that sound okay? He goes, it's great. And I executed the adjustment. Your students need to know how to use this foundation because one, they don't want to be in conflict with you. You need to teach them how to regulate, how to ask a question, and because at the end of the day, it's up to you and what you want and how you want it done because you have your own leadership style and your own preference, and I'm not going to downplay that because you're the leader. So they need to understand, and this base foundation has really helped a lot. There's this scenario that we're gonna go through together. I'll read it and then you all can get in your groups and then I'll set the timer. The scenario is a learner is placed in an internship. They're technically capable, but they miss updates, avoid asking questions, and become defensive when corrected. Their supervisor is frustrated and unsure whether the learner is ready for future opportunities. So in your groups, you're gonna talk about these 4 things. What is the real performance gap? What should have been taught before placement? What support could be provided during placement? And how should this be debriefed after placement? So I'll give you about 7 minutes. So go ahead. I'm gonna close out with the original intent of this training. The goal is not to get students in the door. The goal is to make sure they're able to perform once they arrive. Gen Z has potential, but potential also needs guidance, it needs frameworks, and it also needs leaders and instructors like yourselves who are setting that foundation. So I'm gonna close out with my services. Like I mentioned, I provide employee training and also self-paced online training programs. So if you're an institution where you have a learning management system and you want content to be uploaded in there for your students to take, I do that. But I also focus on communication, professionalism, and emotional intelligence. The frameworks that I shared with you earlier are just a quick little snippet of what I teach. I'm very interactive, I like dialogue, and I want to get your students involved because I want to help them succeed as well. I'm a Gen Zer, and I have a stake in the game too, because we're not going anywhere. If you would like to, if you scan this QR code, it's going to take you to my link tree where you have access to scheduling a meeting with me, but also it'll take you back to that checklist as well. And if you want to follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn and YouTube, I post a lot of content on there as well. Once again, my keyword is value. I like to provide value. If you have not received a business card from me, if you want to towards the end of this training, you can just come say bye to me and I'll give you one. But besides that, thank you all for choosing to be here. I know this was a choice and I appreciate your time. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your time at the conference, but it was lovely meeting each of you.
The best. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's worth my time.